This isn't about dirty water, obvious disease, or beginner mistakes. This is a pattern many keepers experience in African cichlid tanks, especially in Malawi cichlid setups that appear stable on the surface. A biological time bomb that doesn't tick loudly, but still counts down all the same. Most people believe tank failure announces itself. Cloudy water, dead fish, aggression, panic, something obvious, something dramatic, something that forces action. But the most damaging failures don't start loud, they start quiet. And by the time they become visible, the system has already made its decision. This is where many cichlid tanks quietly cross the line, from functioning to failing, and most people don't realize it until much later. Nothing crashes, nothing explodes, nothing looks wrong. The tank simply stops improving, and that plateau is often mistaken for success. Let's pause here for a moment, because this is the part people rarely question. Most keepers are taught that stability means good numbers, stable temperature, acceptable pH, clean parameters, test kits that read green instead of red, and on paper that makes sense. Numbers are easy, numbers feel objective, numbers feel safe. This is usually the moment people say, but my numbers are perfect. But this is where the illusion of stability begins, because a cichlid tank can be chemically stable and biologically unstable at the same time. And most people never notice this part until it's already too late. Fish don't experience a tank the way we read test kits. They don't live inside numbers. They don't feel percentages or ranges. They live inside pressure, movement, interruption, repetition, social signals, space, time. In many cichlid tanks, chemical stability is mistaken for biological balance, especially with African cichlids that evolved in predictable environments. When small changes happen repeatedly, even if each change looks harmless on its own, the system never fully settles. And a system that never settles never truly relaxes. And a system that never settles never becomes safe. pH is a perfect example. Most keepers are taught acceptable ranges. Stay within them and you're fine, but pH rarely kills fish suddenly. It exhausts them slowly. Tiny shifts that stay within acceptable limits can still stress cichlids over time, especially when those shifts repeat. Water change after water change, buffer after buffer, adjustment after adjustment. The danger isn't bad pH. It's unstable pH that looks good enough. Fish adapt, then adapt again and again, until adaptation becomes exhaustion. And here's the part most people miss. Exhaustion doesn't look like stress. It looks like calm, slower movement, less curiosity, less confidence. Cichlids still eat, still swim, still survive, but something is missing: presence, weight, authority. And because nothing dramatic is happening, most keepers interpret this as peace, as balance, as success. This is where silence gets misread as health. But calm doesn't always mean healthy. Calm can also mean suppression. This is where many tanks quietly fail. Cichlids stop competing, stop displaying, stop asserting space. Not because they're peaceful, but because conserving energy feels safer than expressing behavior. And that's exactly the danger. Nothing looks wrong yet. A system that suppresses behavior without obvious conflict can run for months, even years, before the damage becomes visible. Now layer in stocking density. Many cichlid tanks aren't overstocked on paper. The fish count looks reasonable. The tank looks spacious. The filtration is strong. But fish don't experience space as gallons per fish. They experience interruption, constant visual pressure, movement they can't escape, waste accumulation that never quite drops, territorial overlap that never fully resolves. Even large cichlid aquariums can become pressure cookers when species activity and pacing don't align. This is common in mixed African cichlid aquariums, where compatibility matters more than most care guides admit. Pressure builds quietly long before aggression ever shows itself. Aggression is loud. Pressure is silent, and pressure always comes first. As pressure builds, the biological load increases. Oxygen demand rises. Nitrates creep upward. Microfluctuations become routine. The system works harder to stay stable, and the cichlids work harder to stay functional. Everything looks fine until it isn't. Species mismatch accelerates this even further. Not all mismatches fight. Some simply don't belong together. Different rhythms, different social languages, different expectations of space and timing. No obvious bullying, no torn fins, no chasing, just constant low-level competition for attention, territory, and safety. Over time, this weakens the entire ecosystem. Immune systems dip, recovery slows, behavior flattens. The cichlid tank survives, but it never thrives. And because nothing dramatic happens, the keeper assumes everything is working. This is how systems fail without ever looking broken. This is the part people don't notice until it's too late. The system hasn't crashed yet, it's just stopped getting better. Now here's where things get uncomfortable. Many experienced keepers respond to this subtle decline by fixing more things, adjusting more often, testing more frequently, changing flow, changing lights, rearranging decor, switching foods. Every action feels responsible. Every change feels like progress. But for a biological system, constant correction is not stability, it's disruption. And this is where the time bomb accelerates. Because the cichlids never get to settle, the ecosystem never gets to repeat the same day twice. And repetition, not perfection, is what biological systems need to lock in. This is the one thing test kits can't measure: predictability. You can't test it, you can't graph it, you can't buy it. But cichlids respond to it immediately. When environments repeat without interference, behavior stabilizes, confidence returns, hierarchies settle, energy stops being wasted on constant evaluation. But when environments keep changing, even slightly, the system stays alert, and alert systems burn out. Certain cichlids expose this problem faster than others, not because they're weak, but because they're honest. Species that evolved in stable, low-interference environments don't mass stress well. They don't compensate loudly, they don't fight harder, they withdraw, they fade, they slow down. They survive, but they don't flourish. And because they don't crash dramatically, they're often misread as just calm. This is where many experienced keepers miss the warning signs. If you've been fixing things more and more often, this might be why nothing improves. The system isn't broken, it's overwhelmed by attention. Stability doesn't come from reacting faster. It comes from interfering less, smaller water changes, consistent schedules, predictable lighting, stable flow, letting the system repeat itself long enough to prove it's safe. This feels boring, and that's exactly why it works. Biological systems don't reward excitement, they reward consistency. Preventing a biological meltdown isn't about dramatic interventions, it's about refusing to constantly adjust. It's about trusting a setup long enough to let behavior catch up to chemistry. When a cichlid tank finally settles, it doesn't get louder, it gets quieter. Movement becomes deliberate, boundaries stabilize, fish stop testing what no longer needs to be tested. And that quiet isn't emptiness, it's balance. So if your cichlid tank looks perfect, but something feels off, don't rush to fix it. Watch it, observe patterns over time. Look for repetition, not reactions. Look for confidence, not compliance. Because the most dangerous tanks aren't the ones that look broken, they're the ones that look perfect while quietly failing. And once you learn to see that difference, you'll never look at a stable tank the same way again. And if you want to dive deeper into these hidden worlds behind the glass, stay with Dark Cichlids. This channel exists to dissect the truths most guides simplify, and to question the beautiful lies the hobby has learned to accept. Subscribe not because it's free, but because you value clarity over comfort, systems over shortcuts, and understanding over noise. Here, we don't just show aquariums, we tell the story behind them. Knowledge swims deeper here. What we talked about here is only the surface. This video on screen is where most people realize they've been misunderstanding the hobby for years. I'll meet you there.